Right now, on the National Weather Desk, damaging storms, powerful winds and tornadoes leave a path of destruction across multiple states. We'll show you the damage and the cleanup efforts already underway. Plus, hear from the owner of this car who is grateful to be alive.
No repair can fix that. It's total gone.
April snow. It's already on the ground in the upper Midwest while New England prepares for more than a foot.
Central Maine Power is worried about heavy wet snow that could weigh down tree limbs.
Are you traveling for the eclipse? If you don't already have a reservation, be prepared to dig deep into your wallet.
The solar eclipse is defining spring travel trends this year.
What you can do at home right now to create a unique eclipse viewing experience.
All you need is a few household items to make what's called a pinhole projector.
And it's tulip season in Washington State.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. Nearly 250,000 homes and businesses are without power this morning after a line of severe storms produced damaging winds and multiple tornadoes. The damage is widespread. There were more than 120 storm reports from a dozen states stretching from the Florida Panhandle through the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. The exact number of tornadoes will not be known until the National Weather Service is able to survey the damage. Let's start in the Sunbright, Tennessee, where a suspected tornado downed power lines and tore roofs off homes and businesses. The storm also destroyed a local funeral home. Other buildings suffered heavy damage. The good news is that there are no reports of serious injuries or fatalities. Now to Huntsville, Alabama. The storm knocked down large trees and power lines. Several homes were also damaged. The National Weather Service survey team will be looking into possible tornadoes in Chilton and Dallas counties later today. Our storm chaser meteorologist Brett Adair was in Jeffersonville in southern Indiana, where he found this Walmart truck blown onto this side. He reports tornado damage along Route 265 as well as to the Watson Water Company building. The suspected tornado then crossed the Ohio River and struck the Louisville, Kentucky region. The National Weather Service has already confirmed 3 EF1 tornadoes in the state with winds up to 110 miles per hour. At least 5 more surveys are planned to investigate other possible tornadoes. And a state of emergency is in place in parts of West Virginia as violent morning storms and a possible tornado struck the state. Damage including bricks blown off the side of a building, concrete damage at a local mall, and multiple trees and power lines are down. One man escaped certain death when a massive pole supporting a billboard crushed his car. You'll hear from him in a moment, but we start with Bob Aaron with a look at more damage across the Charleston region.
Heavy late morning rains were pushed by damaging winds in Jackson, Wirt, and Wood counties. The north end of Ravenswood logged some serious damage, including this house crushed by a large tree. A few blocks away, and another massive tree that stood for decades went down, but this one only took out a neighbor's flagpole. A utility trailer was tossed like a toy, and part of the roof and siding torn off a house.
Things were flapping up and down. The wind was blowing really hard. I thought the house was going to go, but just the back part of my roof blew off.
Ronnie Howard calling himself somewhat lucky. The Geno's Tutors employee says he's lucky he had just stepped out of his car before the storm, but unlucky because when the billboard came down, it was his car that took the brunt of it.
I could hear debris hitting the side of the building, and I'm thinking, oh, that must be bad out there. A few minutes later, employees run in and say, Ron, it's your car. I think they're playing a joke on me. And I come outside, and that's what I see, my car.
No one was hurt, and his car was the only thing damaged, but the scene is a mess as crews anticipate it could take days to clean up.
Look at that. It's a tin can.
In Ohio, the story was the heavy rain and flooding across multiple cities. Let's start in the Cincinnati area where high water damaged cars and homes in the neighborhood. Here you can see one car that is submerged in several feet of water. Basements are flooded as well as air conditioning units. Over at the University of Cincinnati, water was flowing down the steps in the Zimmer Hall dorm. The state capital of Columbus also experienced flooding. Iota River overflowed its banks, leaving a park underwater. Fire crews rescued 2 people who were trapped under a bridge as the river rose. As the storm system leaves the Midwest, the threat for severe weather moves to the East Coast. It is not over yet. The greatest risk today stretches from Florida all the way to Delaware. The Storm Prediction Center put 27 million people who live under a level 2 out of 5 for severe storms, as well as isolated hail and a low chance for tornadoes. In New England, the story will be the April snowfall. In Maine, a foot or more could fall between today and Friday morning. The snow comes at the end of a fairly mild winter there, but one that featured multiple coastal and ice storms. Mal Meyer takes a look at preparations underway on land and by air.
Just last week, hundreds of thousands of Mainers were at home in the dark.
That storm was very unique in that it was primarily ice-driven along the coast.
This time, Central Maine Power is worried about heavy wet snow that could weigh down tree limbs inland and strong winds along the coast.
We're making preparations to bring in extra crews tomorrow afternoon and place them in advance of the storm in the event any outages occur.
The company says it also has checked out hundreds of miles of transmission lines by helicopter over the course of this week. In the meantime, Maine DOT is gearing up for some sloppy conditions.
We have 400 plow trucks statewide. This is going to be a statewide storm.
The department says it plowed about 500,000 fewer miles this winter than they have in the last 2 decades. While that led to some savings, it was quickly spent on storm repairs.
It appears that based upon the forecast that coastal flooding isn't going to be as significant a concern as it had been for us the rest of the winter.
A Gunkwit's town manager says there was a lot of storm damage from back-to-back January storms. Otherwise, it's been a mixed bag. While also using a lot less sand-salt mix on the roads this year, they've racked up other expenses, like bringing in more staff for storms.
And then when you include the actual damage costs, as well as the cost for personnel to fix the damages, it's incredibly expensive.
Though a federal disaster declaration earlier this year may help some communities with certain storm costs.
In Green Bay, a winter storm continues to impact the region with strong winds and snow showers. A winter storm warning is in effect until 1 o'clock today. That's when the snow should start to taper off. Meteorologist Christian Palacio was just outside of Green Bay last night with a look at the conditions.
And as you can take a look behind me, we have snow covering this entire parking lot, and that is thanks to Winter Storm Cora, which came earlier this Tuesday afternoon. And we've also had these windy conditions, which is still going to be apparent as we get into Wednesday. And you can take a look at this anemometer here real quick. We've had some wind gusts picking up to about 15 miles per hour in this very anemometer here. So snow is going to continue Tuesday overnight and well into Wednesday morning and even to the afternoon. As soon as that snow backs off in the afternoon hours, we're still going to have some windy conditions for Wednesday, and it is going to cause some headaches for the Wednesday morning commute as well. But we're going to continue to have Winter Storm Cora in much of northeast Wisconsin for the overnight hours and into Wednesday. Reporting from Alloway, Wisconsin, meteorologist Christian Palacio.
Now to a deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake that shook the east coast of Taiwan this morning. Taiwan's fire department reports at least 7 people are dead and more than 700 others are injured. The quake was followed by several strong aftershocks as well. The shaking damaged buildings and highways and caused several landslides. It's the strongest earthquake to hit the island in 25 years. Search and rescue efforts are still underway. Snow lovers out west are rejoicing. The California snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountains snow now stands at more than 100% of its April average. That's the second year in a row it has reached that mark. The current snowpack is the result of powerful storms, atmospheric rivers that began to roll in during February and continued through March. And from cold to hot, a new study says climate change is causing heat waves to last longer and move more slowly, worsening the effects of extreme temperatures and drought. The speed of heat waves, which are pushed by air circulation, decreased each decade from 1979 to 2020. The average duration of heat waves also lengthened, and they are also becoming more frequent. And for all the latest on today's weather threats, be sure to check us out on social media, where we'll update what's happening with today's severe weather threats. Just search the National Weather Desk. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we continue our countdown to the eclipse with a look at where hotel prices are out of the world for the big event.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Our nor'easter gets going today in the Northeast. We have rain and snow moving in. The wind is picking up as well. We're watching the potential for coastal flooding around the times of high tide. And areas in northern New England that get heavy wet snow. Power outages are likely here. That extends into Thursday morning. That's about 7 a.m. Notice some improvement through parts of southern New England and New York. I think some rain and snow showers will linger both Friday and Saturday. We're talking about the potential of 1 to 2 feet of snow in northern parts of New England.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region, tracking more rain and thunderstorms for your Wednesday, some of which could be on the strong side in the afternoon with some damaging winds possible, so 1 or 2 may become very marginally severe. After that, the threat will exit, but we'll still have rainfall around as we move through Thursday, scattered showers likely. Temperatures will stay on the mild side. We may briefly reach the mid-50s as we get into Thursday, but we will see 60s returning as we get into the weekend.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. We have another warm day. Most of us to the northwest of that frontal boundary are comfortable, sitting around seasonable high temperatures in the 60s and 70s. But to the south, nice and warm in the mid to upper 80s as that frontal boundary continues its passage, pushing south. This is throughout your day. Today, we'll see that frontal boundary making its way through central Florida around mid-afternoon, South Florida falling apart around dinner time into the overnight hours.
The National Weather Desk.
Since the start of 2024, 19 tornadoes have hit Ohio, even in a state used to tornado activity. That's an unusually high number, especially during the first few months of the year. Isabel Hansen spoke to meteorologist Marshall McPeak to find out why this is happening.
Yeah, I crawled into this bathtub right here and laid down. I laid down like this and I pulled the shower curtain closed.
Sheltering in our safe spots. Many of us have already done so this year.
Yeah, I yelled for all the kids to get in the closet.
So far in 2024, 19 tornadoes hit Ohio, and Chief Meteorologist Marshall McPeak says that's unusual.
I think for a lot of the area, it's a matter of do you have the right ingredients at exactly the right time? And that's what we have had several times already this season.
And he tells me the severity of the tornadoes also isn't the norm for the first few months of the year in Ohio.
A lot of times this time of year, when we do have tornadoes, they're usually small. They tend not to do as much damage. The storms that we've had this year, we've already had EF2 and EF3 tornadoes.
So why are these strong storms sweeping through our area during an atypical time?
Right now, we don't have a whole lot of indication that this is part of an overall change in pattern. It's just a few isolated events that, unfortunately, we have 19 tornadoes to show for it. The patterns themselves haven't changed a lot, even though it's an El Nino year.
Marshall says this trend doesn't necessarily indicate what's to come later in the season, but we typically see stronger storms in the summer.
And it usually happens when we have warm days, lots of humidity, and maybe a little support from up in the jet stream. That's often in the summer months, but we can get tornadoes any time of the year.
We talked earlier about snow in Wisconsin, and if you're in the area, you might have heard the term snow ratio. But what exactly does it mean? Meteorologist Phil DeCastro explains.
The snow ratio of the storm, that's a shorthand for the snow to water ratio of this storm. And it's a crucial part of figuring out snow totals for any snow forecast. And what that ratio is, it's a reference to how much snow results from each inch of liquid precipitation. And there are a lot of things that go into this, but the biggest factor simply is temperature. Now, when temperatures are just below freezing, say around 30 degrees, maybe in the upper 20s, you get what we could call a typical snowfall. That's a ratio of about 10 to 1, or about 10 inches of snow for each inch of liquid precipitation that a storm produces. But in a situation like what we have, our temperatures are pretty marginal. They're either hovering around or just above freezing for a good part of the storm. And when that happens, it can still snow, but the ratios really suffer. So it would not be surprising if in this storm we end up with a ratio of maybe half a typical snowfall, somewhere around 5 or 6 to 1. Now, when it's very chilly out, those ratios can go through the roof. When temperatures are in the teens, we can get very, very light, dry, fluffy snows with ratios of 20 to 1, or even much higher than that. But when we say light and fluffy, we really mean it. There's a huge difference between how much these different snows actually weigh. Now, a snowfall at about 10 to 1 will weigh about 10 pounds per cubic foot. But if that ratio is about half that, the snow could weigh twice as much per cubic foot. Really back-breaking, sticky, slushy stuff.
Yeah, I'll take that 10 to 1 ratio. We are now just 5 days from next week's total solar eclipse. All week, we've been taking a look at what the weather will be like during the eclipse. The models are still seeing it and suggesting. This is the latest cloud cover now from the American model known as the GFS. As you can see, clouds still holding on and could be an issue across many parts of the path of totality, but the eclipse itself could help them dissipate. Remember, this forecast, still several days out, will continue to change between now and Monday. If you plan to travel for the eclipse and haven't made hotel reservations, you may be in for a rude awakening. Demand is very high, and as Adela Uchida reports, so are the prices.
This is the map Airbnb provided us of all the bookings across the country on April 7th, the day before the eclipse, outlining what will be the path of totality.
The solar eclipse is defining spring travel trends this year.
In fact, 1 in 4 Airbnb bookings that night across the United States are in the path of totality, including here in Austin and the Hill Country. It's the same story at hotels, too. A quick look at Expedia showed me there are rooms available, but they're not cheap, ranging from more than $400 a night downtown to $124 for a hotel near the airport. Expedia told the city last month bookings for that weekend were up 42%. But even with eclipse excitement building, out-of-towners can still find a place to stay and enjoy a few minutes of darkness on April 8th.
Places like Fredericksburg and Pflugerville, Texas, are places along the path of totality that still have plenty of inventory left to book to provide a unique and special solar eclipse viewing experience on April 8th.
And if you don't plan on traveling to view the eclipse, meteorologist Christina Ernie has something you can do at home to get one kind of a view.
All you need is a few household items to make what's called a pinhole projector. First, you take a box, any box, and you cut a little bit of a window into it. For some, it's a good idea if you have a big enough box where you can stick your head inside, but that's not necessary. Once you've cut that window, make sure that you have tape and aluminum foil handy. You're going to use that window and place aluminum foil right over it and tape it into place. This is the hole that you're actually going to point directly at the sun, with the sun or the eclipse at your back. Next, make sure you have a white piece of paper handy. This is going to be your projector. So you're taping that piece of paper inside. Once that piece of paper is in place, make sure you have something small, like a pin or the tip of a ballpoint pen, and you're going to poke a small hole right in the middle of that aluminum foil. Again, this hole is going to be acting like a projector, so you'll be pointing this towards the eclipse with the sun shining through it. Initially, you'll just see that circle like what you're seeing here, but as the sun becomes eclipsed, you'll start to see that circle turn into a crescent moon and then disappear. And that is a safe way for you to view the solar eclipse with your back to it without using those glasses.
The biggest tulip festival is underway in the United States. Skagit Valley's Tulip Festival runs the entire month of April in Washington State. Lee Stoll is there and tells how the weather's impacting this year's bloom.
The fields around Mount Vernon are showing pink, white, and yellow signs of spring.
It's breathtaking. The colors are gorgeous. The flowers are beautiful. The backdrop of the mountains, it's awe-inspiring.
Winter may have been a bit dry, but the bulbs enjoyed a good growing season. In fact, the annual bloom at Rosengard is a bit ahead of schedule.
The rainfall has caught up, at least here in the valley it has.
The festival counts for about 90% of Rosengard's annual business. It was one of the first large events to be canceled in the pandemic in 2020. Good weather and great color will help them get back in the black.
I'm not sure that we'll ever recover from that missed year, but we're still here and we're still blooming.
And time now for a short break, but first we soar along the banks of the Yamhill River in Oregon.
Well, good Wednesday morning. Meteorologist Phil Kelly. Lots of sunshine through the Central Plains, upper Midwest. Still dealing with some leftover rain showers on the backside of that cold front that pushed severe weather through the Ohio Valley yesterday. We'll still see some rain for today and tomorrow as well. Could mix with a little bit of a wintry mix into parts of Michigan and Ohio. Plenty of sunshine, 60 in Lincoln, and still warming up nicely as we get into the weekend as well.
Good Wednesday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off with some really cool temperatures. In fact, downright chilly in some cases. And in the afternoon, lots of good sunshine, a little breezy across Arkansas and parts of Louisiana as that big system's pulling away. Otherwise, delightful temperatures, low humidity. We head into Thursday morning, cool temperatures to start. Lots of sunshine Thursday. Too bad this is an eclipse day Monday, as it is a spectacular finish to the day on Thursday.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, a lot of sunshine and warmth, especially over the Four Corners. A pair of 69s out of Salt Lake and Denver, back into the 80s around Phoenix and Vegas. Time for a cool change, however, in the PNW, because we were in the 70s to near 80 yesterday between Seattle and Portland. Not the case today. Here comes a powerful front. Rain in the morning, showers by this afternoon. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
It's a wild weather week. Winter and spring blankets Wisconsin, and these may look like decorative garden stones run amok, but they are chunks of hail from severe storms in Jefferson City Monday. Enough fell and piled up around this recycling bin, smaller collections elsewhere, some pieces larger than quarters. In Kansas, near the Oklahoma border, baseball-sized hail fell from the sky.
Now let's check to see the weather in cities across the country today. We begin in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where skies are overcast. Things could be a bit windy with a wind advisory in place until 10 o'clock. Gusts expected to reach 40 miles per hour. Highs today just around 50 degrees. And we head down to Houston, Texas, where there's plenty of sunshine with afternoon highs near 80. And a look here at beautiful Naples, Florida, where there's a low risk for severe weather, a mix of sun and clouds early this morning, followed by some showers and rumbles of thunder, highs in the mid-80s. And let's head up to Burke, Vermont with a look at the Burke Mountain Ski Resort. There's a winter storm warning in effect for Burke. Snow, rain, and wind all in the forecast with highs in the low 40s. Thank you for joining us. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. Make it a great Wednesday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.